Well, hi everyone, it's Deanne and I want to welcome you to this training today where we're going to be talking about lease options, surprise, surprise, and how you can use them to make $1 million in equity and a minimum of $10,000 in monthly cash flow in just 3 years or less. And this is all without using your own money, no credit checks, and very little risk. So we're going to get straight into it. And I'm going to make a few assumptions as we kick off today. The first being that this is probably not the first video you have watched about using property to gain financial freedom, because I know that I have watched hundreds of them and I know that a lot of them are disappointing. So this training today will be a little different because there's no high pressure pitch at the end because I don't believe in that, but I am going to give you the opportunity to work with me as part of a case study that I'm doing, and you will either want to get involved in working with me or you won't. It's quite simple. And either way, I'm still going to give you some great information today. So quickly, I just want to talk about who this is for today, and specifically it's for the beginner investor. I'm looking for people who want to build a property portfolio using little to none of their own money. So if you are struggling with knowing where to start, if you're feeling overwhelmed with information, if you're lacking confidence to take action because you don't know how to find a deal, or you don't know what a good deal looks like, or maybe you're just scared of making a mistake and losing your money on a bad investment. Well, if that's you, then you are in the right place. So my promise to you today is that if you use what I teach, which is a step-by-step system to profit using lease options on residential property, you can replace your wage in 12 months or less. You will have over $1 million in equity and be generating a minimum of $10,000 in passive monthly cash flow in 3 years or less. And this is by using what I believe is the simplest and easiest investing strategy in real estate today. And of course, I'm talking about lease options. You can do this. Now, I know that $1 million in equity and a $10,000 a month income in just 3 years it probably seems a little bit crazy to you right now, particularly if you're starting from zero. But by the time that we have finished this training today, you'll see how you can do this yourself. And I hope that you will be really excited about doing it for yourself and your family. So who am I to be talking to you about this today? So just in case that you and I have not met before, I work with beginner property investors to help them build short-term cash flow and long-term wealth using lease options on residential property. And one of the best things about lease options is that you can do them anywhere and from anywhere. Now, I live in Tasmania, and before here I lived in Darwin, but most of my deals have always been in New South Wales. With the technology that's available to us today, all you need is your laptop, the internet, and a telephone. And hopefully you have better reception than mine. But the final missing piece, which a lot of people don't talk about, they say you just need a telephone and the internet and a laptop. You actually need motivation. You need to know your why, because you need to get up off the couch and take some action. Now, I've been a traditional property investor for over 20 years, a creative property investor since 2011, which is when I first came across this creative type of investing. And these days I use lease options in most of my deals. I've held every position within these deals, and now I typically take a lease option on a property and then I on-sell the option at a higher price. And this is the strategy, the sandwich lease option strategy, that we will be talking about today. So I particularly enjoy helping beginner property investors create their systems and process to help them generate seller leads so that they can do these deals and create income for themselves, because it quite simply changes their life. Lease options changed my life, and I don't say that to be dramatic. I hope it doesn't sound dramatic or a bit cliche, but they really gave me the opportunity to get back into the property market after we lost everything. And it's enabled me to build a business that I would not have otherwise been able to do. And I want that opportunity for you. I think everyone should have the opportunity to do this. So let me ask you this question. Why is it important for you to start today? What is your why? Now, I talk to a lot of people, and most people will tell me that they want to get started straight away. But I'll be honest with you, most of them, their why just isn't enough to get them up off the couch, turn off the TV, and actually take the action that is required. Now, I put in my Facebook group a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw it, I asked the question, who knows what the 168 rule is? And most people don't understand or didn't know what it is. A couple of people got it, but everyone has 168 hours a week. Everybody, we all start on a level playing field of 168 hours a week. It's what you do with those hours that will make the difference as to whether you're successful at this or successful at anything, really. Because I saw some results on a study from the US, and I know I haven't seen anything from Australia, but I'll just use their results. And it said that 40 hours a week on average, 40 of our 168, 40 hours a week was spent sitting in front of the television. Now, to me, that is just amazing. Like, we do not watch TV in this house. We have one, but it's rarely on. Actually, the only time it's on is when Richmond is playing, because Mark is a mad Richmond fan. But so, for me, thinking that someone is going to waste 40 hours of every week, what could you be doing with that? How could you be changing your life, doing something with that 40 hours a week? So, back to my question. Why are you looking to do something different? Do you want to replace your wage so you can watch your kids grow up? Do you want to retire your wife and then yourself? Maybe you want to have another child, grow your family. Do you want to send your kids to private school? Buy your own house. I've seen people use this strategy to get their own house together and buy a new car, perhaps. What about go on an awesome holiday every year or give to charity? Now, it's no secret that I love border collies. I have 7. So whilst I can't rescue any, I can donate money when they ask, particularly the Australian Working Dog Rescue Association. When they ask for donations, I donate. And that's actually a really great feeling that I can give back that way. And what about just being able to pay your bills on time? Not worrying about that knock on the door. Not worrying how you're going to pay your mortgage this month. What about having the money at Christmas to buy things for your friends and family that they will love? I was listening to a call with someone last week and they were talking about this, and they were saying, how would it feel to not have to budget for Christmas? Like, $10 on Joey, $20 on Billy, $50 on Mum. What would it feel like to know that you can go out and buy something that you know they will love just because you can? Now, I put this in here too, that I went to Hawaii at the end of last year for a business mastermind, and being able to take my mum along with me, she had a break. I went to work and she had a break. Who would you take on a luxury break just because you wanted to? Now, learning how to do lease options for me is the key. It's the key to unlocking consistent cash flow, and this gives you financial stability and security. So in my other trainings, I cover the actual steps you need to take to do a lease option deal. So today, we're not going to go back over those. We're just going to cover the 3 profit centers that lease options can offer you. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you how you can work closely with me on an upcoming live case study that starts on the 1st of May. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on too before we get into it is this training is not for you if you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. If you want me to just show you how to do this, this isn't going to work for you. So, don't waste your time any further on this training. This type of investing, you need to do the work. This is not for you if you bounce from program to program without doing anything, because I'm going to push you and you will be held accountable in this program every week, because it's all about the results and it's all about getting you to the outcomes that you want. So for this type of investing to work for you, you must be resourceful and you must be coachable, because what we put in place together works. So I need you to be open to trying new things. And some of those things are going to make you feel uncomfortable at times. But on the other side of that is your future, your financial future, where you get to choose how you spend your time and your money. So just have a think about it before you hang around for the rest of the training. And of course, on the flip side of that, the training is for you if you are a beginner and you're struggling with knowing how to start, you're lacking the confidence, as we already talked about before. But the main thing I want to stress is that you must want to learn and you must want to take action, because for this to work for you, you must want to start investing and you must want to start now. I want you to understand that this type of investing is not buy and hold. It's not buy and do nothing or buy and pray, I heard it called last week. It's active investing. You are going to be finding sellers. You're going to be talking to sellers, making offers, putting deals together. And when you first start, you are going to be doing every single step yourself, which I think is exciting, because then once you've got everything under control, you've done a deal or two, you can put a team together and pass off the things that you don't enjoy. But in the beginning, it's all you. Now, if this is something that you want to do, and if this is something that interests you, then stay with me as we move into the training. So quickly, if this is your first training with me, let's just go through briefly what a lease option deal is and how we put one together. Like I say, I'm not going through all the steps, but I just want people to understand what the lease option is and what a deal looks like. Now, firstly, the lease option is a way to control a property and its cash flow without actually having to own it. So a lease option is made up of two things. Now, it's a lease, and that gives you the right to occupy the property, and this is just your standard tenancy agreement, which is relevant to your state or territory. Now, I'm sure that you've all seen these before, because it's the same form that you'll fill out when you are going to become a tenant in a property. Now, in addition to your tenancy agreement, you have an option agreement, which is drawn up between you and the seller. And I say drawn up because it's drawn up by a lawyer. And this option agreement details the agreement that you and the seller have reached regarding his property. So his or her property, I should say. So price, terms, etc., time. And this option agreement gives you the option to purchase that property in the future at the price that you and the seller have agreed upon today. And that's important as well. Now, having this option agreement gives you just that. It gives you the option to buy, but not the obligation. But if you do decide to buy, the seller must sell that property to you at the price you agreed together when you first entered the agreement. So in a nutshell, a lease option is a way to take control of a property and its cash flow without you having to take out a mortgage, because the existing mortgage of the property stays in place. And you, the investor, take control of the property and the cash flow whilst you basically take over the payments of the mortgage that's already there. Now, as I mentioned before, we are talking about sandwich lease options in this training. So once you have control of the property from the seller with your lease option deal, then you will turn around and you will do another lease option. You will sublease the property to someone else. And this is a tenant buyer. And your positive cash flow comes after the outgoings for the property that you agreed with the seller after they have been paid. So after they've been paid, your positive cash flow comes from what is left. Now, for you to be successful and to build a long-term business using this strategy, you must be prepared to do deals with integrity, because reputation will precede you. Every position in these deals needs to be win-win. So that's your seller, that's the investor, which is you, and that's your tenant buyer. So let's go through the positions held in these sandwich lease option deals. So the first position is going to be the seller. Now, why would a seller consider a lease option? And I actually get asked this question a lot. And it comes down to two things. It comes down to a financial reason, or it comes down to time. Now, it's going to be because they're having trouble selling their house the traditional way, and explaining to them that you will pay full price. They're going to get full market price for their property. And because you don't charge any fees, they're actually going to end up with more money. Can be quite compelling for a seller who's having trouble moving on their property, particularly if it's causing them some financial strain. Now, they might be upside down on their loan, and by that I mean that their mortgage might be worth more than the house. And the lease option gives time for the house value to catch up with the loan value. So if the house is upside down or underwater, I've heard it called as well, the seller can't actually sell the house because there's going to be a shortfall owed to the bank. So putting a lease option in place with a term that suits that can actually be quite a windfall for a seller. And the other reason, of course, is that they could be behind in their repayments. And it could just be that they're a month or two behind, or it could be that the bank has started repossession action through the court and the court process is underway. Now, when it's explained to the seller that during this lease option period, if they give you 3 years or 5 years, you are actually going to be paying down their loan during this time. So again, they're going to end up with more money in their pocket when the property settles in 5 years' time. And lease options can actually reduce management problems. Now, sometimes you'll come across sellers who are just so sick of being a landlord, and initially they might not want to do this because they can see that it's continuing on a landlord problem and they're sick of being a landlord. But when you explain that you're actually renting the house to someone who wants to buy it and it's a mind shift, it can actually be a great solution for them. So moving on to the tenant buyer. The tenant buyer usually do not qualify for a traditional loan today, but they can service a loan, so they can afford the repayments on a loan, but they just can't get the loan. And that's usually because they don't have a deposit, or they don't have stamp duty, or they can't cover the closing costs. They don't have, if it's anything more than an 80% loan, then they've got mortgage insurance. Maybe they're self-employed, but quite often they have a little mark on their credit report. So moving on, tenants buying with a rent-to-buy scheme are usually prepared to pay a little bit more because they know that they benefit from the rent-to-buy and the lease option agreement. The reason that it's so exciting for them, besides the fact that they can actually move into their own home, is the purchase price of the home is fixed by the lease option. So they know when they move into their house that they know what the purchase price is going to be in 5 years' time, so they can work towards that. And it's not going to change over time. Like, I know you'll hear a lot these days where people are saving for the deposit and they finally get to, 80,000 and they go to the bank and now they need 100 or 120,000. Like, they're always playing catch up. Whereas this way, they've moved into their home, they're paying it off saving their deposit, if you like, each week through their option fees, and they know that the price is set. Now, they also have a choice to buy or not to buy, and they can decide during that lease option term when is the best time for them to buy. So they're effectively, as I just said, saving for the deposit on their home whilst they can live in it. They can be living in their home whilst they wait for their credit report to clear, so they get a better loan interest rate. Now, I actually had some people in one of my properties, and she was a lawyer, and they needed a 12-month lease option because they were just waiting for a little glitch on her credit to drop off for them to get a better loan interest rate. They could have got a loan to buy this house. They could have got a loan, but just by waiting 6 months, they got a better interest rate, and it just worked for them, obviously, because they were continuing to put money aside through their option payments. So there's lots of little benefits for tenant buyers as well, and don't always assume that tenant buyers have no money, because quite often they do. They just can't get a loan for different reasons, different life experiences. So the investor, now this is you, and there are many reasons that a sandwich lease option is beneficial for you, financially beneficial for you. So as the investor, you are going to be sitting in the middle of the seller and the tenant buyer. So sandwiched, if you like, sandwiched in the middle. Now, tenant buyers will pay you an upfront option fee when they move into the house, and that's usually between 2 and 5% of the agreed purchase price. Now, the tenant buyer is also willing to pay the equivalent to a mortgage repayment each week or each month, and this means that you will be receiving weekly payments above market rent, and this helps you cover other outgoings as well, plus will leave you some positive cash flow. Now, tenant buyers are also willing to pay more than the property is currently worth today because you, as the investor, is giving them flexible buying terms. Now, we know that the tenant buyer needs to move into a loan within that lease option period. So when you're setting the purchase price for the tenant buyer, it's really important to be responsible and sometimes conservative, because you want them to be able to move into their own loan at the end. So the tenant buyer considers themselves to be buying the home, so they will care for the property as a buyer, as an owner, rather than a tenant, which results in lower maintenance costs. And when you put yourself in this position as the investor in the middle, you are effectively a landlord now, and the great news is that there are fewer vacancies for a rent to buy home or property. Now, if the tenant buyer defaults on the lease option agreement, then the investor, we keep the money paid up front and any extra payments made during that term, as long as it's made clear in the option agreement, which is why we get lawyers to draw up our contracts. So if the tenant buyer defaults and they move out, or they just change their mind and move on, you don't have to pay them back any money. So the key lessons that I have learned whilst doing these deals are, the main one, the first one, is keep it simple. And I know that you'll hear this all the time, but it's keep it simple, stupid. Don't complicate things. The steps are simple, they're easy, and the second part just flows into that. So find a system that works for you and just do it. Don't try and change it. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Just follow a system. Find a system and follow it. So find someone who's doing what you want to do and follow their system. And it doesn't matter if you end up working with me or if you work with somebody else. I would recommend that, particularly your first or second deal, don't challenge them on things. Just do what you're paying them to teach you. Do those steps. And then once you've done a few deals, you can tweak things a little, tweak things around and test and see what works and what doesn't work. Now, the third part of this is you have to make offers every day, or at least a number of offers each week if you're working full time. Now, it's pretty obvious, I would think, that your success and how quickly you succeed at this is going to be directly related to how many offers you make. If you're not making any offers, then no one can accept your offers and you can't be putting a deal together. But if you're making 5 to 10 offers every week, then by the end of 1 month or 2 months, there's going to be deals in there that we can put together. So make offers every day. And the other part that I always bang on about is to follow up consistently, because someone might not be ready today, but in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, situations have changed and they might be looking for you to do a deal with then. So let's move on to the minimum requirements that I look for with a lease option deal, or a sandwich lease option deal. Now, another video I did, which is also in the Facebook group, which was on the power of lease options, about using sandwich lease options. So I'm not going to go into that too much. I just want to touch on a little bit to explain how the figures work in that. So in my own deals, I'm looking for these very simple minimum requirements. I'm looking for a 3 to 5 year term. I'm looking for an average cash flow of $500 per month per property. And I'm looking for an average profit of $30,000 per deal. That's it. So remember, we are doing sandwich lease options. We stay in the middle. This is a 3 to 5 year investment for us. So in some states like Queensland, you can pass on responsibility for minor maintenance and repairs to the tenant buyers, which helps obviously in regards to what goes in and out, money that's going in and out. But because I recommend and I teach that we only deal with nice homes in nice areas where families want to live, this will mean fewer problems, fewer repairs, less maintenance. And because the tenant buyer will want to buy the property at the end, you're more likely to be able to pick up your cash later money, which we're going to talk about in the next slide. I'm a step ahead of myself. Okay, the 3 profit centers in a sandwich lease option deals, and I think you probably already know what they are. We're looking at cash now, cash flow, and cash later. So cash now is the money you receive at the beginning of the deal, your upfront money. So we're talking about the upfront option fee that you receive from your tenant buyer, and this is usually between 2 to 5% of the agreed purchase price. It's also non-refundable if the tenant buyer changes their mind and does not buy the property. Now, just remember that from this upfront fee, you will need to pay whatever you have agreed to pay the seller. So for example, if you have offered the seller a $1,000 option fee, $1,000 upfront option fee, then you will pay this out of the upfront option fee you receive from your tenant buyer. So if they're paying you $10,000 and you are passing through $1,000 to your seller to get the deal done with him, then you are receiving $9,000 cash now. That is yours. And this is how you do a no money down deal. So let's move on to cash flow. Your cash flow is the weekly or monthly payments, however it's set up, you will be receiving from your tenant buyer minus whatever you need to pay the seller. Now you look for between $300 and $500 per month per property. Now I'm going to go through an example in a minute of one of my own properties so that you can see how this works. And finally, we look at cash later. Now this is the profit you receive at the end of the lease option term if the tenant buyer buys the property. And this is also known as your back-end profit. Now this is what builds up as your equity during the time of the lease option. Now it's not 100% certain that you will receive this cash later money, but if you are putting the time in to find the right tenant buyers, to qualify the right tenant buyers who will qualify for a loan, if you're only getting nice homes in nice areas, you're going to have a lot better success rate getting your tenant buyers into their loan and settling on the properties. So the simple formula for getting to $1 million in equity and a minimum of $10,000 in monthly cash flow in just 3 years is quite simple. You have an average equity per deal of $30,000 and you have an average cash flow of $300 per month. Now I know that in my spreadsheet and in my minimum requirements, I look for $500 a week, but because we're talking about $1 million in equity and $10,000 per month, $300 actually is enough. $300 a month cash flow is enough to get us to our goals. So it's quite simply $30,000 per deal over 36 months, over 3 years, is your $1,080,000, and that's your cash later. And then your $300 times 36 again, 36 months, 3 years, is $10,800 per month, and that's your cash flow. So let's have a look at an example deal that I did in New South Wales. Now, the deal with my seller, we agreed that I would buy his property for $425,000. I had an upfront option fee to him of 3% because he actually needed some money, so I agreed to pay him $12,750 as my upfront option fee. Now I had a weekly rent of $410 per week, that was market rent, and outgoings I agreed to cover came in about just under $50 per week. So all up, to put this deal in place, I agreed to pay the seller $12,750 up front and $460 per week for 3 years. He gave me 3 years. So then I turned around and marketed the property and found a tenant buyer who will pay me $459,000 for the house, which locked in a $34,000 profit for me. I had an upfront option fee of $15,000 because I needed $12,750 to pay the seller. So I needed my tenant buyer to pay more than that. So this tenant buyer had $15,000, so he came in with $15,000. Now, a mortgage repayment on what a loan would be if he went to the bank worked out to be around $620 per week. So that's how we priced his payments. So his weekly payment was $500 a week and his ongoing option fee was $120 a week. So each week I was receiving $620 per week from the tenant buyer. And now I gave him a 2-year term, and that way I had an extra 12 months if we needed to move him into a loan. If he didn't get a loan within the 2 years, we had an extra 12 months to play with. Now, this is how my final numbers looked. So up front, my cash now, I received $2,250. I received a cash flow of $160 per week for 2 years. And if the tenant buyer had settled on the property, then I would have received $19,270 at the back end. Now, if the tenant buyer had purchased the property, I would have made $38,160 in 2 years. But because he didn't buy the property, he ended up relocating, then I collected $18,890 in 2 years. And when I consider that I didn't actually pay 1 cent to make that $18,000, I think it's a pretty good deal. Okay, so you're watching this webinar. You've heard how this all works. You know that lease options are a great way to make cash now, cash flow, and cash later, and that you can do these deals using little to none of your own money. So let me ask you this question. Well, it's a couple of questions actually. Are you someone who wants to do deals like this? Are you someone who wants to earn $1 million in equity and $10,000 per month in cash flow in 3 years, doing one lease option deal a month? And if you are, you might be wondering how you can learn and implement the steps to put these deals together. So the fastest way to get started is to find someone to teach you how to do it. Now, I have a new lease options case study that I've created, and this is how we are going to do it. So it's an 8-week program, and we were going to break down the steps and cover one step each week. So week 1 is all about marketing for sellers. So we're going to do overview, obviously, what systems you need, how it all fits together, set some goals, but the main focus for that week is all about marketing for sellers. Now in week 2, you're going to learn about how easy it is to talk to sellers. This is a big module. A lot of people get caught up in this part of it, but you are going to learn that you don't need to worry about saying anything wrong, it's all about just getting yourself out there and knowing what questions to ask. Now, I provide everything to you that you need to get on the phone in that week, and that is what you'll be doing. So week 2, you'll be on the phone talking to sellers. Now, week 3 is all about learning how to make offers, simple and fast offers. Now, it's all about understanding the numbers in your offer and look, I want everyone to be able to make offers like in 10 minutes. Once we've gone through this process and you've learnt the steps and understand what needs to go into these things, you shouldn't be spending more than 10 minutes on an offer, which is why you can be making, 3 to 5 offers a day. And the other part that we're going to be covering in this week 3 is setting up your follow-up sequences. Now, I know that if you've listened to any of my stuff that I'm very big on following up. So this is the week that we show you how to set those up as well. And because by now you're in week 3, you've had 2 weeks of generating your leads, so you will have some leads that you need to put into the system for you to be following up on. So then we move into week 4, and this is all about finding your tenant buyers and where to find them, how to talk to them, how to pre-screen them, if you like, and then how to outsource the process. Because I'm very big on using experts, and there's no point trying to teach yourself how to do something if you can just outsource it to an expert. So this is where we bring in mortgage brokers and property managers. But you need to obviously know how to pre-screen a tenant buyer before you send them to those people. So this is all about marketing for buyers and pre-screening them and then sending them off into the next part of the process. So moving into week 5, and we're talking about closing the deal, putting it all together, how it all fits, how people get paid, and what paperwork goes where, and then also about getting your networks and community in place. Then we move into week 6, and week 6 is all about the tools and systems that you're going to need to run the business efficiently. So we're talking about automating and delegating the roles within your business as well. So once you've done your first couple of deals, maybe even your first deal, you might want to start looking for a virtual assistant to start doing some of your admin or some of your marketing. This is where we talk about what you can automate, what you can outsource, and how to do that. So that's all in week 6. Now, week 7 and 8 are 2 bonus weeks that I put into the program as well, just to give everyone a chance to review anything that you might need extra help with. So the goal, of course, is to help you find these awesome lease option opportunities that you can then turn into cash flow. So the last 2 weeks are just more about wrapping up and making sure that everything's working and flowing, and just giving that extra time to get any extra help before the program is finished. So for the next 8 weeks, I'll be working with this small group who are going to implement the systems and the steps. They're going to test them, and they're going to report back on their results. And later, I'll be using their results as case studies to show how easy it is to apply this strategy. So we kick off next Tuesday, the 1st of May, and I am inviting you to join the case study team. So here is how it will work. Each week we focus on one of the core modules of the program. Then we get together on one big group call a week where we will talk about that module. We will work out a plan for each of you for the following week, and you then go away, put that into action, and report back your results. So on the call, we will be doing some training on that module. That whatever week we're up to, we'll be doing some training on that module. We will have a Q&A on that module, and then we will be working with you one-on-one to make sure that you've got a plan to head off into the next week. So it's an 8-week case study, group call on a Thursday evening, private Facebook group, just for members of the case study, so you can get all your questions answered and share in your success. And that's also a great way for me to be in contact with you all at any time of the day and night if you've got a question that needs answering. And of course, we have a one-on-one call together in the first week where we go through your goals, how it's all going to fit together, and get you kicked off. Okay. So I'm not going to carry on about how much it's going to cost you if you're going to go and do someone else's course, or try to develop your own software, or try to learn how to train your own VAs, or read a book, or the time that you are going to waste to try and do this on your own. Now, first, I just want to say that this is not the same as my other program where we work closely together and I provide you leads and one-on-one coaching. This is a fast-paced group training program that I'm doing for the very first time, and I want to use the results moving forward. So you're going to get access to all of my current modules and training. You always get lifetime access to that and all the updates and everything else. And you will also join our private Facebook Momentum group for graduates after the 8 weeks to make sure that you continue and have ongoing access to our growing community. So the investment in this case study program is just $2,500, and I'm offering a 3-payment plan of $850. And I've priced it this way so that everyone who is committed to changing their financial future can get started here with me next week. After this case study, the price will go up. Well, the results of the case study will be brought into the program will be tweaked, and then the price will go up. So this is a one-off case study. So if you are interested and you want to come and play, go to creativepropertyacademy.com.au, and there's a page, you'll come up with a page and it'll have the 2 links to how you pay in full or the 3 pay. So if you want to be part of this, you need to be quick because class starts next Tuesday on the 1st of May. And the doors close at midnight on the 30th of April. So that's it. I'm shutting it down from then, and then we can get stuck into what we need to learn. So I want you to ask yourself these questions. What would $1 million in equity and $10,000 a month in cash flow do for you? How would that change your life? And how hard are you prepared to work to get it? Where do you find the sellers you need to be talking to? What areas should you be targeting? Do you need to be marketing? How do you make an offer? How do you do a deal straight away? What systems do you need to be using? This program gives you everything that you need to do your first deal, and then your next deal, and then your deal after that. I'm not keeping anything back. You are getting access to my complete program. And you can actually get access right away. As soon as you've paid, I'll give you access so you can actually get a head start and be having a look around through everything before we kick off. So it costs just $2,500 and three payments of $850. Now that link again is creativepropertyacademy.com.au. Now space is limited. I'm not going to be able to take everyone who wants to get in, but here is what will happen. Once your payment is processed, you'll be sent an email with your membership site login. We will have the schedule for the weekly calls. You'll need to provide us with some information so we can set up your CRM system straight away. You will get a welcome email with a link to book a call with me so we can get you set up to get started, and you will also get an invite to the private Facebook group. Now, when you go to creativepropertyacademy.com.au and click on the link, this is what will come up. I just wanted to show you quickly because I know people get confused sometimes. Just type your name in there and you're creating your own account. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Type your email address in and create your own password. This is the password that you will use for the membership site. Once you've done that, click continue and it'll take you through to the rest of the process. So I just wanted you to see this screen so that you won't be surprised when it pops up. So that brings me to the end of this training, and I want to thank you for spending the time with me. I know that 45 minutes is a long time in someone's day, so I hope that you now understand the 3 profit centers from a lease option, a sandwich lease option specifically, and also that you want to join me for the next 8 weeks and throw yourself in boots first so that we can get your first deal done fast. Okay, I really look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.